The legal pressure on Sean Diddy Combs could now be escalating on a federal level. The Department of Justice is getting ready to present Diddy's accusers to a federal grand jury. That's according to a report from CNN. That could signal federal investigators are closing in on indicting the music mogul. Here with us now is Paula Frolic, senior story editor here at News Nation, and legal analyst and trial attorney Misty Marris. Ladies, welcome. Good morning. Paula, I will start with you. We now know at least 9 of the alleged victims will come up for the federal probe. What else do we know?
Well, we know that when they went into his house, they took videotape because he had cameras in every single room to record the freak-out parties and everything else that went on. And they are talking to every single person they found on the tapes, including a male prostitute who now says he was abused.
Wow. Okay, so Misty, we know that the Department of Homeland Security conducted raids on Diddy's home in L.A. and Miami more than 2 months ago, like Paula just mentioned. What would the Department of Justice need in order to present their case to a federal grand jury?
When you present to a grand jury, prosecutors need to show what's called probable cause. It's exactly what it sounds like. It means that the grand jurors are 51% sure, probable, that the individual committed the crime, that's the accused, committed the crime, and that a crime was committed. And that standard is one of the lower standards in the law. It is much less than beyond a reasonable doubt, which you see when somebody goes to trial. So evidence is presented before the grand jury. It has to be based on evidence, witness testimony, documents, video. All of that can be presented for the grand jury with the ultimate goal of indicting the individual. And in this case, these are federal charges. So this is not just going to be assault, sexual harassment, like the allegations in these civil complaints. It has to be something that falls under the federal purview. That's some organized criminal activity, sex trafficking, drug trafficking, gun trafficking. Those are the types of crimes that we're looking at.
So let me stick with you for a moment. Talk to us about the circumstances surrounding the federal grand jury testimony. If any of Diddy's accusers are called to testify, will that testimony be sealed? Will we, the public, find out what the alleged victims have said?
So, Hannah, that is actually a secret process. The grand jury process is a prosecutorial process. The defendant actually doesn't participate. And everything that happens behind those closed doors is a secret. So the only way that we're going to find out information about the grand jury's conclusions is when we actually see an indictment, which would show the crimes that the individual, in this case Diddy, or any co-conspirators are charged with.
Paula, one of Diddy's biggest collaborators, the late, great Notorious B.I.G., his mother's weighing in. What did she have to say?
So she's disgusted and she's furious. And she's saying, yeah, I want to see Sean so I can smack him across the face.
She said that.
Yep. And she's also saying, hey, I saw your apology, but I noticed you didn't apologize to Cassie. You apologized to your fans, of which there are dwindling numbers. But it was very shocking. And she also noted, and this is important, that a week before Biggie died, he was saying he was going to leave Bad Boy Records. And that is shocking because, you know, Puffy don't like it when people leave him.
Right. We're hearing that more and more. There's an article out in Rolling Stone, Paula, that actually chronicles 30 years of alleged abuse. That was an intensive article. I read it a few days ago. Have your sources shed insight on how Diddy feels about this from his friends, employees? What are people saying?
So I think Diddy is still just like, nope, 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 because you have to understand, he has lived his life with impunity. He has been beating on women since college, and most likely before, because this is not behavior you just randomly pick up. And so the Rolling Stone article talked about how his girlfriend in college was beat in front of a crowd with a belt by Diddy, and all these people have been terrified to talk. Bad Boy employees were beat. They also had to hold him back several times. And they just, you know, people have been terrified because he's always said, well, I got ins with the cops, I got ins with the mafia, and I will go after you. I mean, he did tell me once, hey, I'm going to get you. And I was like, oh, okay.
Was he terrifying?
No, not really. For me, he tried to be very terrifying, and he was trying to be intimidating, and then I gave it right back to him.
Yeah.
And also, I was in a privileged position of not working for him and working for the press. So that's very different.
I wouldn't mess with Paula Frolic. Misty, very quickly, you have about 30 seconds. If you were Diddy's attorney, how would you handle this? What would you advise him?
I also wouldn't mess with Paula, but I would be advising Diddy to get ready, because if the federal government is involved, you know an indictment is coming. And when the federal government brings a case to the grand jury, it's buttoned up and it's bulletproof. So get ready.
We'll be keeping an eye on this. Misty Marris, Paula Frolic. Ladies, thank you so much.